Diablo 4 is back, Season 2 is about to start, and of course we are playing Barbarian. It is time to re-go over the best and fastest Barbarian leveling guide after incredible success from the guide we made last season. We're talking about strong bossing, quick gameplay, very good AoE farming, great survivability, and just flawless gameplay across the board. So with that being said, if you're making a Barbarian, which you should be if you're checking this out, we're going to go over the build planner and some game footage. Of course, if you just want the build planner, you can go into the comment section, look at the pinned comment that I posted, get the build planner from there. But first, I'm going to give anyone that doesn't really care about this video and doesn't need an in-depth explanation the things you need to know that aren't on the build planner, just for some additional clarification. So the first thing is going to be, this is a Rend build. Rend is getting buffed. It was already insane for leveling. Like I said, over 250,000 people across all of the guide websites and from the video use this to level up their Barbarian in Season 1, and it's getting buffed for Season 2, so we made a few changes here. However, with Rend being so strong, Upheaval was also pretty much tripled in its output, which means that there is a way to use Upheaval first, and we'll go over the strategy for sure here, but you can go into a dungeon until about level 10, which is where you can really access Steel Grasp to its benefit. You can just click on the leveling here. We start with, I believe, 10 renowned here, so 20 is going to be level 10 when you get the full 3 out of 3 points into Steel Grasp and all of its amazing benefits here, and that is when Rend is just going to take off beyond belief. Outside of that, if you are an experienced Barbarian from Season 1 and pretty much have everything on lock here, you don't need anything else from this video, and you can stick to going over the build planner as long as you understand how to check everything with the build planner. Of course, by clicking this slide button here, you can see the recommended stats and all of that good stuff. So with that out of the way, let's go over the basic skills that we're using, all 6 of them. We have Iron Skin, Rend, Challenging Shout, Ground Stomp, Steel Grasp, and Call of the Ancient. Now, if you haven't played a Barbarian before, you might be wondering, what is so strong about Rend? Why is Rend this OP leveling skill that is uncontested in the early game? The reason why is because the biggest issue with leveling a Barbarian is going to be the Fury. And now that we're getting full renown, as soon as we start Season 2, we get so many points, 10 points on start, and we get access to Furious Rend just like we did last season, because you only really need 5, but direct damage with Rend grants 4 Fury per enemy hit, up to a maximum of 20 Fury. That is massive. The sustain's incredible, and we get this paired with Tactical Ground Stomp to make us set for Fury generation. We aren't even using Rallying Cry, right? Because we just don't need all of that Fury gen, because we have plenty, like more than enough, with Furious Rend here. This is where a lot of the other builds fall off, because Rend doesn't have to crit and you have very low critical strike. And until we unlock Iron Skin, we're doing maybe 1 or 2 lunging strikes. We're not really using this for Fury generation with this Rend build. We're kind of using it to go fast, right? Because Rend will, like, I guess, teleport you. If you click on a mob that's far away from you, kind of like shoots you to that mob. That's pretty much what we're using Lunging Strike for, because you're not really going to struggle with Fury early on, as opposed to other things like Upheaval, but we will get over that, and where Upheaval can be better at the start, like I briefly mentioned on before. So the most important thing to know with this guide is, what Vampiric power should we be looking for? Accursed Touch and Flowing Veins are going to have priority. So those are what you're looking for. First, you deal 60% increased damage over time, which is all of Rend's damage that are moving or affected by a Vampiric Curse. And then we go to Accursed Touch, Lucky Hit, up to 44% chance to inflict Vampiric Curse on enemies. Enemies with the Vampiric Curse have 15% chance to spread it. That's all good, and it deals 200% increased damage. So those are the first 2 you really want to keep your eye out for while you're leveling up with this Rend build, to just do literally stupid damage with this, because again, damage over time is getting buffed in Season 2. Now, as far as the aspects go, everything's pretty self-explanatory. There's really nothing new here. The only thing new is this assimilation aspect, and again, if you remember from the season 1 video, this build works so well with no aspects, which is what makes it so powerful and why it got so popular once I did initially release this, because you can run 0 aspects in this build and you will still pump through your entire leveling process. The only thing I'm going to do a bit different this time is I'm going to kind of cap this build at level 50. I'm not going to go too far into the Paragon board, as you're going to see here. I stopped, pretty much after 1 board. Once I hit 50 in game, I'm going to release a new guide on what some of the best options are past level 50, because that's where you kind of get into mid game and you can really start min-maxing based on the gear you get. The next important note is going to be uniques. If you get lucky and you get a unique early, use it, especially if it's good. Razor Plate, OP. Swap some skills, or make sure your next skills on your priority list is going to be these 2 right here. One being Outburst, the next one being Tough as Nails, and then you're just going to melt everything. Again, Razor Plate is an OP unique to get early on. The same thing applies with Oathkeeper, especially now that it's been reworked. You can just swap it on instead of Skullbreaker, and you can just ignore Skullbreaker. And now let's talk about the build itself. So we have Rend Test here. Let's log into our Rend Test character so you can kind of see what it's going to feel like at the start. And I'm going to do a second video that's going to talk about the optimal way to level in season 2, because it's pretty conflicting right now and I see the narrative kind of being pushed one way, which is go to this dungeon and just spam it until you're level, I don't know. I really don't know the optimal level that it's being pushed to spam the main tunnels, but in my opinion, it's not going to be the way to go. It's going to make the game very boring, and they just buffed pretty much all of the outside worlds content, whether it's the Tree of Whispers, Legion events, all of that good stuff. They, like I said, significantly boosted the experience there. So for a fun factor, and I guess there's a debate of it's even more power if you decide to do open world stuff, because you're going to be getting a ton more resources. And resources are very strong in this game, and of course doing your seasonal quest at the start. But a lot of people are heading straight to this dungeon, and I mean, I get why, right? You pretty much get your first 10 levels in 3 minutes or less, which you can kind of do anyways if you just follow the events that spawn once the season will go live. There's kind of an order to do that. So I really don't personally see the hype to doing this strategy, because for one, it's very boring, but I'm just going to show you what Rend looks like in the early on gameplay here. All right, so as we can see, for the first points, I have 2 into Lunging Strike, 3 into Rend, all the way down to Furious Rend, of course taking Enhanced. Then we have Ground Stomp, and then Tactical Ground Stomp. And with this setup, like I said, you're just going to fly. The one important thing to note that I almost did not do, because I'm too excited for this video, is to hit whatever key, on PC it's S, hover over Rend, and make sure you swap to dual wield. You want to be attacking faster. Everyone's damage is going to be overpowered regardless of what skill you use. You're just going to be overpowered, so you want to attack as fast as possible with Rend, and by default it's going to give you a 2-handed weapon, which you don't want. So like I said, you hit S if you're a PC player, then you hit the middle mouse button until you get to dual wield. On controller, I don't know what these settings are for you, but just make sure you're using dual wield. And as you're leveling up, if you find a really good 2-hander, you can swap to it. If you have really good 1-handers, of course, use that. You can use it at your own discretion. I personally, last season, only played 1-hander because it just felt way, way better. So, of course, open up this stuff, get all of your loot here. We don't really care too much about this stuff. I guess we can Ground Stomp, start doing this. And this is where, kind of like I said before, a lot of your damage is going to come from leveling up, like a ton of your damage, which is why Upheaval for this is going to be faster, because it's, direct damage versus bleed, but Upheaval is going to heavily lag behind. As you can see, just no issues at the moment with Fury regen at all. And of course, the leveling up again is just going to skyrocket you, and it's going to one-shot everything on your screen. It's like I guess a hidden ability, we can call it. But this build really pops off once you get Steel Grasp at level 10, which is why I made that quick disclaimer when we did first start here. But, we're just killing everything so quickly. And, oh, look, we got the Butcher level 1. And demolished. I was not ready for that at all. So if you get the Butcher level 1, hopefully you've picked up some blue gear prior to then. If I was really a gamer, I would be taking things like Challenging Shout as I'm leveling up. And of course, we're also taking into Enhanced Iron Skin and Enhanced Challenging Shout. So as we can see, if I were smart and not talking, so I was paying attention to my screen here, I would have had Challenging Shout and, what's it called? Iron Skin, and we would have survived the Butcher without issue. This is one thing where I've actually fought a Butcher while testing out the Upheaval, which, like I said, is a bit faster, and Upheaval actually gets dominated by the boss, whereas Rend, I don't know what it is about the single target about Rend, even before the buff. I mean, maybe this will change for Upheaval since they're both getting buffed, and technically the Upheaval buff is going to be higher than this, but I mean, once you hit level 5, the survivability you gain here is unmatched. It really is unmatched here. So we got these spawning guys. And I mean, just watching this gameplay, you can kind of see why once we get Steel Grasp and we can pull in all of these mobs here, how it becomes very OP. And if you really want to min-max, you kind of saw what I did there. I moved to the next pack just before I hit the next level here, which is of course optimal. And I used the level up AoE to just one-shot that very large pack, which did wonders for me. So as we can see, 3 Rens can just dismantle any elite you face, and of course the damage will be significantly higher as we move on into Season 2 with the buff multipliers, because if I didn't make that clear, this is currently pre-Season 2, so I'm using a weaker version of this leveling build at the moment here. And again, level up, we just one-shot everything here. Let's go and pick up our gear from the ground here. Let's kind of finish off this pack here, and this is kind of my point that I was getting at before. It's not that fun to rush because, for one, there's no reason to. There are no leaderboards, and it's just more enjoyable to take your time. So we got an upgrade on the 2-hand and an upgrade on the 1-hand. So again, if you want to swap to the 2-hand, you can definitely do that. I wouldn't recommend it just yet, but of course it's an option. Now we hit 2 out of 2 Rend, and the next level is when we get the first point into Steel Grasp, which is going to make this build pop. So when we normally get to this point, we teleport out, we reset the dungeon, then we teleport back into the reset dungeon and everything is fine, and you just keep farming that way. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend that farming method to pretty much anybody who has to watch a YouTube video for a build guide, but of course it's up to the player and it is what it is. So as far as Rend goes, that's going to be the extent of what I'm going to show you. The final skill here is going to be Steel Grasp, and then we're going to unlock Call of the Ancients, which is just OP for leveling, as most people know here. And the one major thing to talk about is going to be Lunging Strike. How can we use Call of the Ancients and Steel Grasp while using Lunging Strike? The answer is you don't. You use Lunging Strike pretty much all of the time instead of Iron Skin, and if you're fighting a capstone dungeon or a very hard content elite or boss, just really quickly hit S, take Iron Skin, drag it over Lunging Strike, and you're set. Like I said, you're not going to run into rage issues because Call of the Ancients has a very high rage gain for you, and the Fury return on Rend is also incredibly high. And of course, as like a free 40 Fury, which is more than you would need for 1 cost of Rend, you are getting from Ground Stomp, which is also a CC layer. So we're going to go ahead and leave game. Now we're going to head on to the Upheaval Barbarian, where this is going to be, if you're doing this tunnel strat and you don't want to suffer through, I guess, the weakest part of Rend, which is going to be in a mass AoE mob dungeon, like Domain Tunnels on the launch of the game, which, I don't think most players are going to do because of how important the seasonal stuff's going to be with getting your vampiric powers ASAP. So it's likely by the time you're done with the beginning quest chain of that seasonal journey, you're going to be well on your way and decent enough level to have Steel Grasp already, making you just fly through content with Rend. But you are going to see, even with the unbuffed version of Upheaval, that if you decide to go to the dungeon first, it's going to be significantly faster because of the range. And I mean, I can't really explain it. I can just show you how good it's going to be for these first few levels. All right, so here we are. And before we start, I have to say one thing. Do not, if you're using Upheaval, do not put a point into Enhanced Upheaval and do not put a point into Violent Upheaval or Furious Upheaval. Do this way later. For one, our attack speed's so low that we are never going to be able to hit 2 Upheaval in this berserking window. Later on with aspects, we can do it easily, no problem, but with how much Upheaval costs and how small our Fury gen is, we're not going to be hitting 2, so it's just a waste. The fact that we're starting off with, again, 2 points into lunging, just to get that out of the way, 4 ranks of Upheaval on launch, then we have Ground Stomp with 40 Fury here on top of Rallying Cry. Let me just show you how fast this is and how much faster it's going to be for anyone trying to do this for the first few levels, because the damage is going to be significantly, and I mean significantly, buffed. So we got that. This is the only issue, as you can see, the rage is a bit lacking, so you kind of have to kite around and do this a bit, but since the range is so far, you're going to be just fine. Like, look at that. Great AoE, and it's already going to be significantly faster than the first levels of Ren for sure here. But when you are caught lacking with low Fury, that's when the danger can absolutely start here. So we do that a bit. Let's go this way. We're going to level up soon. Let's start keeping an eye and looking for one of these large packs here. All right, we didn't quite kill that elite, but again, we're doing pretty much 3 times less damage than normal. Here's our Ground Stomp. Dodge any stun we can. And I mean, we are just pumping at this point. And I kind of did the same thing I did with Rend, where I didn't level myself up right away here, which is why it's taking me a little bit of time to kill these elites when we're simply comparing both of these videos, or I guess test segments, to each other. But yeah, one of the main concerns that people have with Upheaval is it's slow and it feels kind of bad to use, which I totally understand and get. And then from here, you can put another point into Upheaval and then go ahead and get even more rage over here that's going to be the main point. And for Upheaval, you're going to want just the triple shout build, which, yes, it's kind of boring, but now we unlock Berserking for ourselves. And we get this pretty quick, as we see all the way up to level 7 is when we unlock our full action bar. And then we use the lovely triple shouts, which I know I don't personally like, which is why I do a lot of single shout builds. Of course, I'm going to do triple shout builds again, because there are not people that like it, but they just prefer how easy it is, which I totally understand. But for me, definitely not my cup of tea. All right, so again, we cleared everything and we did it much faster. Unfortunately, we got no luck on weapons here, but this is what you would do. From here, you could, I guess, reset it one more time, go back into it with Upheaval, and then for the third reset of the dungeon, you would full swap to Rend with Steel Grasp and pull everything in, Rend twice, have full Fury, move to the next pack, pull everything in, just rinse and repeat that, and you will obliterate and fly through this dungeon as many times as you want. So that's going to be the basic gameplay of this build guide, where you're just going to fly all the way from 1 to 50, doing any content you choose. All of the important information, of course, is going to be on this build, and head to the comment section. You can even look at when to drop Rend, Launching Strike versus Iron Skin that we talked about, Paragon Board, which I explained earlier on. And when you are ready to move into a mid-game build, definitely check the channel out. I will have tons more guides updated for Season 2, of course, showing you just how much fun this season is going to be, in my opinion at least. And definitely check out the video I'm releasing with this video, comparing what's better, dungeon versus open world content when going through your first character for level 1 to 50. Alright guys, that's going to conclude this content. If you enjoy this, smash that like button, subscribe to the notification bell, and I'll see you all in the next video.